Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to ask that if you gain any valuable insight from this episode, that you please share and leave a review. We truly appreciate all the support and would love your help to spread the word. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Jeff Fenster Show for another segment of Lessons Learned, where we're going to recap the top 10 takeaways from Pat Flynn on being a service-first entrepreneur. Number 1, 10x is easier than 2x.
Just diving into the deep end taught me so much more. And there's a book out there called 10x is easier than 2x. And it goes across the same sort of ideals where, if you're trying to 2x yourself or get twice as better, you're probably going to continue to do the same things and make the same decisions. Just try to get better at those things or put more force into it or just get more efficient with what you're doing. But if you're going to 10x yourself, you can't do the same things that you're doing. You have to take a different approach. You have to find a different route. And that will test you and that'll challenge you. But with big risks comes bigger rewards. I'm so grateful that I got let go because if I didn't, I'd still be in architecture today because I wouldn't have been forced to figure it out. And I was forced to figure it out, and that business continued to grow and grow. And that's where smartpassiveincome.com came along because a lot of people and friends of mine and old colleagues said, "How did you do that? Can you show me?" And I said, "Sure." So I built a website. I started to show people everything from the tools I was using to how I was approaching creating content to how I was selling this thing, what was working, what wasn't, and like you said earlier, how much money I was making, which I didn't realize was such a big deal. I was just like, if people are going to learn from me, I want to show them all the things that are going on and truthfully and transparently. And apparently that just blew everybody's mind. Like, oh my gosh, this guy's like showing us how much money he's making and how many customers he has. And it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns. Like there were some down months too. And those months were more interesting to people too because they started to go, oh, well, why did this not work this month? And it wasn't just about the numbers. It was the things that I did or didn't do that those numbers were a byproduct from.
Number 2, serving first.
You have your formula, I have mine. And really what mine comes down to is just serving first. Find a problem and help those people. That's really all that it comes down to. Even down to now where I have students that I coach. It's like, let's find one person who has a problem and let's solve that person's one problem. Everything else can stem from there. Mm-hmm. You don't need a website. You don't need a business. You don't need a location in order to help people. And once you get that one result, not only does it teach you where to find these people, how to talk to these people, how to teach these people what their objections are, what their struggles are, how to help them overcome those struggles. Not only do you also get a testimonial after you help them, but you now have the confidence that what you can help people with actually does help, which is, I know, a big problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is we want to solve problems, but then we end up having to sell something or promote ourselves, and we're just not sure, or we have imposter syndrome because we don't know if it's gonna hit or not. Well, find out, like get it done, get that person the result, and then what happens is you almost now feel a responsibility, an obligation to go out there and promote it, and you speak loud about it because you know that this can help. If you had the cure for a disease, and you know that would help people, you're going to shout from the rooftops to help as many people as you can, right? Especially if you come from a heartfelt sort of service-driven approach. That combined with the systems and the automations and the people and the way that you set up your business, very much inspired by Tim Ferriss. I got to say, when I started my business in 2008, that was a year after the 4-Hour Workweek came out. And that's why my business, my architecture business, did not have a physical space, did not have even physical books, because I wanted to just get that information to people in an as automated a fashion as possible. Yep. So people could download the book, get it automatically delivered to them. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have an extra, $700 to $800 in my bank account the next morning. And it was just such a unreal, surreal feeling, especially because I worked so hard to become an architect. And here I was doing this thing that I had never done before, and I was making 2.5 times more.
Number 3, life can shape you or break you. I went to law school to be a sports agent. I've never touched the legal profession pretty much since. You went and were an architect. I mean, how often do you architect at this point?
In the traditional sense, very little.
Correct, right? And so you have this reshapement of life, of what you thought you were or this person you thought you were, because one of my core values, one of my success formula for me is change ready, is to be willing to change. And the Great Recession taught me that because we were, unfortunately or fortunately, children of that era, and we came into the workforce right during one of the worst financial times in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
I think it enabled us to survive COVID a lot better and handle the next macro black swan event. And those unfortunately can break a lot of people or companies, but can shape a lot of people and companies. And I think the Pat Flynn story of '08 is so valuable, especially, unfortunately, of what I am seeing today in today's weird times. Mm-hmm. Number 4, letting go.
In order to become the entrepreneur that I am today, I had to let go of who I thought I was supposed to be. There's this thing called sunk cost fallacy, where when you put enough time into something, you think that that's what you have to keep doing. And I felt that way about architecture. I felt that way because I went to school for architecture. My parents paid my way through Berkeley to become this architect. Stepping away from that didn't make sense to me on paper. Like, it did not make sense for me to try something completely different when I had spent all these years doing this. But when I got laid off, I was sort of on 2 ladders. I was like wanting to climb the corporate ladder and still be on that ladder, and I was sort of hanging on. But then here was this new ladder, and I was on both ladders. And if you imagine yourself straddling both ladders, like, how easy is it to climb any of those ladders?
Yeah,
it's gonna be weird, and you're gonna fall and hurt yourself. So I had to let go of the architecture career ladder that I had to fully embrace and put all my strength into climbing this new ladder. And this new ladder, the entrepreneurial ladder, was much taller, much higher, a little scarier, but I could climb a lot higher because I didn't have those ceilings holding me back from the growth that I didn't even know I had in myself.
Number 5, go all in on you.
So about 9-10 months later, my boss called me back, the one who let me go. And he was calling to check up on me. He's like, Pat, how are you doing? Like, are you okay? Hopefully you're surviving the recession. And I said, man, I started this new thing and it's going really well. And I don't think he was hearing me, because the next thing he said was, Pat, I want to offer you a job again, a job back. So he removed himself from the firm. He took a couple of my friends and coworkers to start up a firm, and they were working with one client, but it was a client that I was mostly on when I was in architecture, and they were going to start up a new thing. And he had offered me more pay. He'd offered me a bonus, and he even offered to pay for a year's rent for me to come back to Irvine and work with him in an office with 2 of my coworkers. And I did not hesitate to say thanks, but no thanks. Like, it was a split-second decision. And then I hung up. I was like, wow, I really just said no to what would have been an amazing opportunity. Why did I not even think about that? And it's because I couldn't imagine going back when I even just got a taste of what it was like to be my own boss and see. And it wasn't just about the revenue either. It was about the fact that revenue was coming in while I was getting these incredible thank you notes from the people I was helping. Because I have my fingerprint on several buildings around the U.S., mostly P.F. Chang's and Yard Houses, because I was in the restaurant division, some Gaps and Apple stores too. But anyway, those were the projects I was working on. Nobody will ever know that. I mean, you're the only people to know that because I just said it.
Next time I eat at P.F. Chang's, I'm going to think of you, though.
Pat Flynn Chang's,
Pat
P.F.
Flynn
Chang's.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
No, I don't know. I just made that up.
Yeah, I like it.
But with the lead exam, an exam that most people don't know about, when a person would pass their exam because of the help that I have offered, I mean, people were sending me like life stories about how passing that exam got them this promotion and allowed them to take a vacation with their family, like that they weren't able to do before, or that they were studying for this exam for 2 years and their boss was going to fire them if they didn't pass, they said, but then they were able to finally do it after I got so much more recognition and thank yous and feeling like I was doing something worthwhile, helping a little exam in the space versus building these giant buildings that everybody was going to use every day. And I was like, wow, I can make a bigger impact on my own. And so I'm going to go deep into that, deep impact.
Hey everyone, just wanted to take a second to say how incredibly grateful we are for all of our listeners, and I want to hear from you. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and it will only help us make this show better for you. So any questions you have, click the link in the show notes below and let us know. Now, back to the episode. Number 6, you never know the impact you're making.
And I later realized that I'm making an impact even if I never hear that I'm making an impact. By putting myself out there, I mean, there was a point in 2011, 2012 when my podcast was up for a year and a half, and the numbers were starting to get pretty flat, right? Plateauing. And so I was getting way more attention and way more traffic from my blog. The podcast was great because I was telling stories, people could hear my voice and such, but it just, like, I didn't see the results in the numbers. And I'm a very numbers-driven person as well. So I was like, oh, maybe I should quit the podcast. And right before I was going to give up on the podcast, I got an email from a guy in Poland. His name was Michał Stefanski. And the subject line of this email was, Pat, you saved my life. And so I was like, man, this is good. It's either really good clickbait or this story is going to mean something. And thankfully it was the latter. I opened it and he was telling me the story that he found my podcast almost as soon as I came out with it. And it was around that time that he had a terrible snowboarding accident. He broke both of his legs. He included x-rays in the emails to show how shattered they were. And then he felt like he was a disappointment to his family. He wasn't able to work anymore. His family had to take care of him. He had 2 young daughters. And he said that every day he wanted to just give up. But after hearing my show, that kept him going. And he said that he listened to my podcast every day. It wasn't even a daily show. So he was listening to episodes over and over again to learn business and to be able to do things. And he was able to start a business from his bed to help people in the finance space as a blogger. But he said that in one episode, he learned from me that when you set goals for yourself, that you want to set almost impossible goals that are seemingly impossible because, like we were talking about earlier, it pushes you. And he decided that with 2 broken legs after one of those episodes that he was going to run a marathon. So he had about a year and a half to rehabilitate himself, to learn how to walk again, and to train to run a marathon. At the very end of this email, the very end of this email was a picture of him crossing the finish line at the Warsaw full marathon, 26.2 miles, holding up a sign, and it was in Polish, so I didn't understand what it said. And it said, to translate, thank you, God, thank you to his family, and thank you, Pat Flynn.
Wow. You just gave me goosebumps.
And, dude, I was like, I never even knew this person existed until he sent me this email. And the whole time that I had my podcast going, he was listening, and I was helping him. I didn't even realize it. And I wanted to give up. Mm-hmm. So it was that point forward that I knew that I never wanted to stop anymore. Like that even if I don't get verbal or actual confirmation that what I'm doing is helping, as long as I pour into those people, whether they tell me or not, it is worth doing. Several years later, I went to an event and he was there and he gifted me that banner. So I have that in my house actually, which was awesome. But I'm very grateful for Michał. He has since become one of the most highly published authors in Poland now. He has a book translated to Financial Ninja is the name of his book, and it self-published, but it outsold every traditional published book in personal development and finances in the country. Anyway, he's doing really good because, he also got a lot of content from me to help him with his business. So anyway, I tell you that because, impact is important, but sometimes you don't know the impact you're making. So you just have to keep going.
Number 7, community is your product.
Our product now is community. It's focusing on not just like us talking to the audience and the audience talking to us. It's having a safe space for the audience to connect and talk to each other. And to have that happen and to see that the connections and the cross-pollination and the random meetings that are happening that are all serving that audience, even without me there, is freaking amazing. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I advise business owners do now is think about how can you not just create educational information or products, but how can you create a community around those things of like-minded people who share the same goals or who have the same problems or who are struggling with the same things so that they can support each other. If you do that, you become essentially the facilitator of those interactions, and it does nothing but heighten your brand and increase the amount of support and exposure and reach and love for what you're doing. So my latest book that came out in 2019 is called Superfans.
I've also read that.
Thank you. And I sort of wrote that with the prediction that in the future, communities would be the most important thing. And I think we all know that this is where it's going because the human-to-human connection is what is always going to be needed for a person to feel like, to just feel anything, really. And so in 2020, during the pandemic, I started a new thing with the Superfans playbook in mind, with making people feel like they belong to something, with common language between that community, with actually building a community in the Pokemon space. And I got to thank my kids because my kids got me into Pokemon. And then, of course, they kind of grew out of it. And now here I am as a 40-year-old now going super deep into it, deeper than I ever thought I would. When we grew up, I grew up with Magic the Gathering. Yep. And
Pogs.
And Pogs, oh my gosh, yes. Pokemon was a little too young for us at the time. I actually worked at a Toys R Us in Mira Mesa, and every Saturday I had to come in and set up tables so that the kids could come in and play Pokemon, and I was always like, Pokemon, such a kid's game. Now here we are. But of course, now it's a collectible. Now it's something people invest in, and it's still providing a lot of bonding experiences between parents and their kids, and trading, and like the cards are still coming out. There's the anime, there's all the things around it, Pokemon Go. So I started this channel called Deep Pocket Monster on YouTube in 2020. I got really deep into the world of Pokemon and YouTubers, and found that there were some holes, and I could come in and tell a better story. And try to just entertain in a way that's different than what everybody else was doing, which was opening packs of cards and screaming when they got something cool, which was fun, but that's not me. I want to tell a story, I want to go deep, and I want to have some fun doing it. Now, fast forward today, 2.5 years later, we're at 650,000 subscribers. It is actually more profitable than anything I've ever done because it's a small team, and the ad revenue from YouTube plus the sponsorships and such are just out of this world. It's a much bigger audience because it's more entertainment versus focus like entrepreneurship. But I'm also just having so much fun, and it's allowing my kids and I to connect. Kids are actually employees of my company now. They are on payroll. They are.
It's also good for tax benefits.
Good. That's the primary reason why they came in, and now they're learning money management, and I can teach them about investing, and they have some money to play with and invest. But also, they're working hard, and they're a part of the videos, and they're helping me with merch and those kinds of things. So it's pretty cool. And now we're bonding over that. Just like it's just really fun. I hosted an event in Anaheim about a month ago, and we had 2,500 people come to a first-year event with zero marketing spend because I set up the event in a way that just brought the community together to have fun, and it's called Card Party. It's not a convention. It's not a expo. It's a party. Like, let's just have fun and celebrate this thing where on the outside we all look like nerds, and people are like, why are you playing with that? This is the space for all of us to come together and not get any of that. We can all relate to each other. And then it was like kids, adults, YouTubers, brands coming together, and we just had such a blast for 2.5 days. And we're definitely going to do another one. We've already sold, I think, a few hundred tickets, and we don't even know where it's going to happen yet. People want it in. And it's because community is so strong and it's needed. And I know how to build community.
Number 8, figuring it out for the benefit of others. Describe to me what the word entrepreneur means to you.
A person who tries to figure it out for the benefit of others. And as a byproduct, happens to make some money. Yeah. But the entrepreneur is the person who's going to step up to figure out how to solve that problem. They're going to get creative. They might not know exactly how they're going to solve that problem, but they know that they just need to keep going to make it happen. And I think you've done that in a way with Everbowl in a brilliant way where you had never been in an industry like this before, but you figured it out, and you figured it out as you went. And not only did you figure it out, you figured out ways to make it more efficient and make it even better. I mean, you can go up the chain to Elon Musk. How are we going to create an electric vehicle that actually is, designed in a way that everybody will want it and is still fast and efficient? I don't know, but he figured it out, and he went back down to first principles to determine, are these rules that we're saying about cars still actually true or not? And he just redesigned from the ground up. He figured it out. Mm-hmm. So an entrepreneur figures it out for the benefit of others and happens to make some money along the way.
Number 9, anyone can have an entrepreneurial mindset.
But when you learn the skills of entrepreneurship, such as how to figure things out, how to communicate your ideas, I mean, those are skills that every employee should have.
You'll make more as an employee having those skills.
Oh, exactly. You'll go up the ladder much faster, for sure. So whether you should break free from what it is you're doing to start your own thing is going to be up to you and your own circumstances. So I can't tell you if that's what you should do or not, because only you know that. But you should learn the skills that an entrepreneur uses to succeed, because those skills are applicable everywhere.
Number 10, help others get what they want, and you will get what you want. Pretend all the wealth, all the businesses, all your exposure, no one knew your name. You didn't have the podcast. Instead of 2008, it's 2023. But you have the knowledge that you have today, and you had to start today in today's world where blogs don't have the same impact. There's much more saturation in the podcast space. social media, personal branding world is much tougher to penetrate through, what would you do first?
I would find a problem that I am interested in solving, that I could obsess over trying to figure out how to solve. Find a person, potentially somebody who already has some sort of following, and just literally pour everything I can to help them get what they want. Because as Zig Ziglar says, you can get anything in life you want, so long as you help other people get what they want.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
Mine too.
It's in my book.
So I'm going to figure that out. What does this person want? I'm going to help them get that, and I'm going to do it in a way that's non-transactional. Hey, if I do this for you, can you do this for me? No. You just do what you can for that person, and let the universe take care of the rest, right? Mm-hmm. And even if that person doesn't give you anything back, you're learning, you're understanding. You can find the next person. All of a sudden, you start to build a little bit of an expertise. Now I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to start talking about the people that I'm helping and how I'm helping them and the things I'm discovering, the new ways that we can all, consider the things that we, the things around this niche. And, just be patient. I think something Gary Vee talks about a lot is micro hustle, macro patience. So on the micro, on the daily, hustling, trying to figure things out, creating content, experimenting, seeing what works, see what doesn't, trying to help people. But on the macro, being patient with those results coming in and having things change, because those things can take sometimes time. And it can feel like nothing. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just starts to take off. And a lot of people, unfortunately, seem to quit right before that inflection point, right before that hockey stick curves. They quit right before. And you got to stay patient, and you got to keep going. And when you keep going, knowing that you're going to keep going, coming from a place of service, then you kind of have nothing to lose, like only so much to gain.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned as much as I did from our special guest, Pat Flynn. Hey everyone. First, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.